In 1972, the year soul music stopped singing about love and started whispering about betrayal.
Somebody, why people break up.
A Stevie Wonder clavinet distorted by control, an Al Green whisper defeating an ego.
We got a thing.
A Billy Paul scream admitting adultery, a Temptation silence stretching 4 minutes before grief speaks. These records didn't celebrate, they confessed, they didn't promise, they warned. Secrets lived inside the grooves, industry lies, personal betrayals, the shadow side of ambition. What happens when artists stop hiding who they really are?
That to me would you, babe?
Stevie Wonder released Superstition in May 1972 from Electric Lady Studios, reclaiming his own composition after Berry Gordy blocked him from gifting it to Jeff Beck. The Hunter Clavinet C ran through a distorted amplifier, a sound born from defiance, not inspiration. Gordy's refusal wasn't about the song's merit. It was about control, about keeping Stevie's genius locked inside Motown's vault during the Nixon paranoia era.
You don't want to save me. Sad.
The track became Wonder's retaliation, a hit he kept, not gave away. But listen close to that opening riff. It hums with the sting of having to steal back what was already his. Next, a Memphis studio where softness became the ultimate weapon. Al Green arrived at Memphis in 1972 with Let's Stay Together, but refused to sing it. The melody felt too delicate, unmanly, weak.
I see it's what I want us to do.
Willie Mitchell kept a bucket of water in the studio, not for refreshment, but as a test. Cool your ego or get out. Mitchell threw Green out repeatedly until the man understood that power lives in restraint, not volume.
Be the one you can run to.
The producer engineered a collapse of the hard soul sound into quiet storm, forcing Green's baritone down into whisper range where vulnerability became the new masculine ideal.
Yeah, I just came to see.
When Green finally surrendered to the arrangement, he discovered something Motown had buried. Tenderness sells harder than aggression. Next, 3 men carrying 10 years of industry betrayal into one record. The OJs cut Backstabbers in 1972 Philadelphia after a decade without a hit. Their trust in the industry transformed into paranoia by years of label indifference. Gamble and Huff handed them a dark opening piano chord followed by a stalker's bass line. Every note mirroring street-level gossip about disloyalty, greed, false friends.
What they do is loud in your face all the time.
The producer didn't invent the paranoia. They documented it, turning real grievances into symphonic architecture. The song emerged not as entertainment, but as a street warning wrapped in orchestral dread. Urban crime and the war on drugs had already fractured every community connection. This record simply gave that fracture a name. Next, a gospel family about to risk their entire reputation. The Staple Singers recorded I'll Take You There in 1972 at Muscle Shoals, Alabama, breaking a sacred boundary by wrapping gospel piety around an R&B groove their church would condemn as sinful.
DJ, help me out. I want love.
Mavis Staples spoke direct commands to Daddy during the take. instructions, not lyrics, grounding the performance in family authority rather than entertainment. Al Bell smuggled a Jamaican bass line cribbed from The Liquidator beneath the gospel arrangement, hiding foreign rhythm inside spiritual language to confuse conservative radio programmers and church elders. Post-civil rights exhaustion had hollowed out the movement. People didn't need another protest song. They needed escape, even if it meant disguising that escape as gospel. Next, a man forced to confess his deepest shame on national radio. Billy Paul released Me and Mrs. Jones in 1972 from Philadelphia, terrified that a record openly celebrating adultery would face radio bans and moral crusades across the country.
It hurts so much.
The saxophone solo, thin, hurried, secretive, mirrored the song's coded language. A man stealing moments with another man's wife, documenting his own moral collapse in real time.
Mrs. Jones.
At the climax, Paul didn't sing Jones. He screamed it, transforming a secret affair into an agonized public confession that stripped away the romance entirely.
30, and no one knows she'll be there.
The explosion of divorce rates had already shattered the 1950s nuclear family myth. Paul's record simply admitted what millions were living, that loyalty had become a choice, not a law. Next, a man too broken to look at his own reflection. The Chi-Lites recorded Old Girl in Chicago during 1972 when R&B demanded that men wear masks of invulnerability, but Eugene Record refused. He admitted weakness, admitted that he couldn't bear to see himself in the mirror.
A young man that wrote many recording hits like so.
The harmonica solo wept where the vocal should have soared. Record kept the take where his voice threatened to crack entirely, transforming the performance into something closer to breakdown than ballad.
I don't know where to go.
A tough R&B man confessing that love had demolished him, leaving nothing but fragility. Culture had begun to allow the shadow side of masculinity to exist in soul music. This record gave that shadow a voice, and the voice sounded like genuine pain. Next, a group carrying the grief of death into a studio full of strangers. The main ingredient cut Everybody Plays the Fool in New York during 1972, months after their original singer died of leukemia. And they chose to record it anyway, to channel private catastrophe into universal testimony. Cuba Gooding Sr. opened the track with a spoken monologue, pulling someone back from a ledge, grounding the song in immediate crisis rather than abstract heartbreak. The group sang not despite their grief, but through it, understanding that real pain gives weight to words about failure that studio perfection could never touch.
I won't say it again. Everybody plays a fool.
Economic recession had already hollowed out security. This record became a survival manual disguised as a love song, proof that the fool survives by singing his foolishness aloud. Next, a blacklisted man refusing to soften his edges for redemption. Bobby Womack released That's the Way I Feel About Cha in 1972 from Muscle Shoals in Memphis, while radioactively blacklisted for marrying Sam Cooke's widow, a pariah forced into exile by industry judgment and gossip.
It's a sign of weakness. Check into the...
Instead of recording a polished comeback vehicle, Womack demanded conversation over melody, talking and arguing his way through the track, deliberately refusing the smooth vocal production that might have rehabilitated his reputation.
It's just the way it is.
The rambling conversational approach wasn't artistry. It was refusal, a rejection of the industry's demand that he apologize for his choices by making prettier music. The outlaw figure had begun emerging in soul. Womack embodied that archetype, choosing integrity over forgiveness. Next, an aging man fighting the erasure of becoming a relic. Rufus Thomas released Do the Funky Penguin in Memphis during 1972, fighting the shadow of becoming a novelty act as a performer approaching his 60s in a youth-obsessed industry. His Wattstax performance controlled 100,000 people, raw authority that proved age hadn't diminished his command. Yet Stax released the single as a serious record, partly to hide the fact that the label itself had exhausted its dance ideas. Thomas performed at the edge of irrelevance, understanding that one misstep toward the punchline destroys credibility entirely. The dance craze era was dying. Disco hadn't yet arrived to fill the vacuum, leaving older performers in dangerous territory between formats. Next, a child's voice changing, threatening to erase a career before it matured. The Jackson 5 recorded Looking Through the Windows in Los Angeles during 1972 as Michael Jackson's voice dropped, threatening the entire commercial foundation of the group and forcing producers into architectural desperation. The arrangement became deliberately cluttered, layered with Baroque complexity, specifically designed to mask vocal imperfections and hide the fact that their frontman's instrument was failing him in real time. The song's theme, watching life from outside, separated by glass, mirrored Michael's isolation, a child performer watching his own relevance expire before his body finished growing. The teen idol expiration date had become visible. Jackson 5 Records suddenly needed to hide what they had once celebrated. Next, a lead singer whose voice commanded armies while another man's name claimed the credit. Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes released If You Don't Know Me By Now in Philadelphia during 1972, with Teddy Pendergrass commanding the entire vocal performance, while Harold Melvin's name dominated the billing, a power arrangement that exposed the death of anonymity in group soul.
That should be so easy to do.
Teddy's explosion at the climax, screaming, "You'll never know me," was partly about the song's narrative and partly about his rage at invisible labor, at singing lit while another man collected the glory.
That should be so easy to do. Just get yourself together.
Producers kept Melvin's name on the cover as a contractual necessity, but everyone in Philadelphia knew the voice belonged to Pendergrass.
If you don't know me, baby.
The era of faceless, interchangeable groups had ended. The frontman's power had become undeniable, impossible to suppress beneath a company name.
Just trust in me, like I trust in you.
Next, a soundtrack artist forced to argue with the film while composing its music. Curtis Mayfield composed Superfly in Chicago during 1972 while fundamentally disagreeing with the film's narrative, refusing to glorify the cocaine economy that the movie romanticized on screen. Rather than quit or compromise, Mayfield recorded the soundtrack as sustained critique. His lyrics, dying for the dollar, built a counter-narrative inside the very product designed to sell the drug dealer fantasy. The heroin epidemic was decimating inner cities, and a major motion picture was packaging that destruction as glamorous rebellion. Mayfield's genius was embedding his moral objection directly into the commercial product, forcing listeners to choose between the film's seduction and the soundtrack's warning. Art became argument, composition became resistance. Next, an opening instrument so immense it delays the first human voice. The Temptations recorded Papa Was a Rolling Stone in Detroit during September 1972, and Dennis Edwards refused the opening line because his actual father had died on that exact date, turning a song about parental absence into a document of his personal devastation. Norman Whitfield forced Edwards to sing it anyway, not to exploit the grief, but to capture it, understanding that genuine anger and loss would transform the performance from good to immense. The 4-minute instrumental intro built tension in architectural silence, delaying the first word until the weight of absence became physical.
Children and another wife, and that ain't right.
The absent father crisis fracturing Black communities wasn't metaphorical. It lived in the room during recording, in Edwards' refusal, and Whitfield's insistence that refusal become voice.